Hello, Trail Seeker, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Learn True Health podcast. I'm very excited for today's episode. I've been waiting for months and months to have Kristen Bowen on the show. She's the founder of Living the Good Life Naturally, the magnesium foot soak that I've been raving about for a few months now. I know that many of the listeners have bought the foot soak and joined me in trying it out and seeing how it works for them. I've received lots of emails and there's been chat in our Facebook group. You can go to Facebook and search Learn True Health to join the Facebook group there. Many people have seen that they have improved sleep, that they're calmer, that they feel more relaxed. I've already shared on the show several times about how it's affecting my family, that we are all noticing better sleep and that we're calmer and just generally happier about that. Everyone can benefit from a deeper, more restful sleep. So we're really excited about learning today, which you're going to learn all about Kristen's product and how is it that we could possibly absorb grams and grams of magnesium through the skin. Now, after this interview, her and I emailed back and forth. And so I wanted to share with you the emails because this is going to fill in some of the gaps of the information that we didn't clarify or get to during the interview. So during the interview, she didn't have some numbers in front of her. And in the interview, she shares that she had been through seizures and she shares the extent of that in the interview. So I'm not going to go into those details now, but essentially it left her having issues with retaining numbers. And so that part of her brain that deals with numbers is not as strong as it once was. However, the part of her brain that deals with and holds all the health information is super strong. So she's got a lot of great health information she shares today. And so she emailed me the numbers after the interview. So I wanted to include that right now with the interview. I was actually incorrect when I thought I had done the math. And so I said that we absorb about 4 grams of magnesium. I was wrong. We absorb more. And this is the exciting part. So I'll read her email. She says that this is what's really going to blow you away. Her product is the strongest one out there. Other companies dilute in big time, dilute their magnesium soaks. In her 64-ounce bottle of Living the Good Life Naturally Magnesium, it contains 403 grams of magnesium chloride. And so you take, an adult takes a quarter cup, it comes out to be 24.42 grams of magnesium, or 24,424 milligrams. So let's just talk about grams. So we've taken this 24 grams of magnesium and we put it into a foot bath or put it into our bath. And what they've done is they've done testing of the water. So after 20 minutes of soaking, they then test the water and they see that the body absorbs about 80% of that. After 45 minutes, the body absorbs about 98%. Now, some of it remains on the skin as some residue. So they're not able to calculate to the exact milligram how much we absorb, but because we can see that the magnesium is uptaked into the body, and that after you soak your feet for 45 minutes to an hour, you're absorbing about 98% of all the magnesium. We imagine maybe a few grams are left on the skin. We're absorbing well into 20 grams of magnesium, which is amazing and exciting. And even on the low end, even if it was only 10 grams we were absorbing, that's still amazing and exciting, considering how inexpensive this is compared to like if you went and did IV magnesium. And so she talks about in the interview how we can, within sometimes only 30 days, doing the 30-day challenge where you soak for an hour every day for 30 days, that she's taken groups of people and done these tests, and they found that on average 78% of people after doing this 30-day challenge find that they have reached RBC, meaning red blood cell magnesium saturation. So the healthy level, they reach 5, which is the healthy level. You want to be between 5 and 7.2 or 7.3, I believe she said. But 5 is a great number. And so in the interview today, she talks about how you can easily test for magnesium deficiency, or where you are on that scale, on the spectrum, what it looks like to have a magnesium deficiency. We talk all about everything you could possibly wonder about magnesium, and the benefits of taking it, and the side effects, and everything, and how to take it, and what it does for the body, and everything you could possibly want to know we talk about today. But what's really exciting is that she has done so many tests to determine that this is the most effective way to absorb magnesium, much more effective than oral magnesium, and that it is easy for anyone to take, and safe and effective for even children to do, and adults of all ages. And because you're absorbing through the skin, you can't overdose. It's done gently, and it doesn't have any negative side effects, and you're absorbing grams and grams of magnesium. So it's the most cost effective compared to any other supplement that I know of out there, when specifically dealing with restoring your body to a full saturation. Now, magnesium is so important in the body, and we've discussed this before, especially when I had Dr. Carolyn Dean on the show. Magnesium is so important that 1% of our blood is magnesium. And so you just think about that. Like, it is incredibly important that our body maintain that homeostasis of having that amount of magnesium in our body. So enjoy today's interview. Kristen is going to be in our Facebook group answering questions. She's giving away 2 bottles of the magnesium and of her magnesium cream that reduces pain and tension in the muscles. So she's giving those away. So you'll want to join the Facebook group and come in and chat with her. And after this airs, I'm going to post a big post for the giveaway, and we'll choose people at random. I'll get my big D&D dice out and roll for the winners. So I look forward to seeing you in the Facebook group. I really look forward to hearing about the continued success of everyone who's trying it. Kristen gives a great discount. You can use the coupon code LTH when you go to livingthegoodlifenaturally.com, should you wish to try this and do the challenge, do the 30-day challenge for yourself and for your family, and see how it works for you. I'd love to hear from you as you take her foot soak and her magnesium soak and you try it for yourself. Please email me, ashley@learntruehealth.com, and let me know what kind of results you get, if any. I want to hear. I'd love to compile all of the information and just share it with her and share it with the rest of the Learn True Health listeners. We can all learn from each other and see how we can gain and learn true health. Excellent. Enjoy today's interview. Welcome to the Learn True Health podcast. I'm your host, Ashley James. This is episode 294. I am so excited for today's guest. I know I always say that, but I have been looking forward to this interview for months and months. Kristin Bowen is the creator of my favorite magnesium product on the planet. Products, actually. She has a whole line of magnesium products, but her foot soak, you've heard me rave about it because it's awesome and it really works. Anything that is natural that can get a 3-year-old to go to sleep without, fighting you in the evening is like a miracle in my opinion. And if you are one of our Learn True Health listeners that's in our Facebook group, you have probably seen a bunch of the listeners chatting about the benefits that they have gotten from using Kristin Bowen's amazing foot soak. You can visit her website, livingthegoodlifenaturally.com. She has been so gracious to give our listeners an amazing discount. You can use the coupon code LTH. I pretty much ask everyone if they're going to give a discount to our listeners to use one coupon code, so it makes it easy. So it's LTH, as in Learn True Health, is the coupon code. So you can go and get that fantastic foot soak and the other things we're going to talk about today. But Kristin has been so wonderful. She has offered to give away 2 amazing products to 2 listeners. So you can go to the Learn True Health Facebook group, and when we launch this interview, I'm going to make a post in the Facebook group, and everyone's going to comment, and we'll roll the dice for 2 listeners to win a free foot soak and your amazing pain relieving magnesium cream, right, Kristen?
Yes,
Um,
both. So
Thank
two
you.
people will receive one of each of those. That excites me. I love to give gifts. And as I've been in that Facebook group, I'm loving the comments and the interaction. So what a fun way to kick off the podcast than to give a gift.
Absolutely. So definitely, listeners, go to the Learn Trail Facebook group and watch for, if probably listening to this on, like, iTunes or Spotify or wherever you're listening to this. Know that a few days after I publish the show, I'll make that post in the Facebook group, and then everyone can jump in, and anyone has a chance to win. So it's really exciting. Kristen, welcome to the show.
Oh, Ashley, I have been so excited. I have literally been counting down the sleeps, as my grandchildren would say, until you and I got to talk a little bit more in depth about one of my favorite topics, magnesium.
Absolutely. Now, for those listeners who haven't heard me talk about you or your product, it was a few months ago that one of my friends tagged me on Facebook and said, "Hey, do you want to go to this together?" And it was in downtown Seattle. Downtown
We
Seattle, like
didn't know. We
no
didn't know,
one
Ashley.
no one goes to downtown Seattle, and it was just like the traffic there is the worst. It's kind of like, I don't know, living in LA and being like, "Hey, do you want to like drive to San Diego in rush hour?" No, no, we don't. And so we did it. We carpooled, we picked up our friend, and my husband and our friend and we drove through the rush hour traffic in actually, I think there's been like rock songs made about how bad, like how legendarily bad the traffic is in Seattle. So no one goes there, but we went there, and we went to this beautiful meeting room, and there was a handful of us there. Um, and we sat down, and Kristen and her family do this like road show where they give health talks on the benefits of minerals, including, especially magnesium. And everyone had lots of questions, and Kristen was so great at answering them. She was really warm, and the whole time I'm thinking, I can't wait to get her on the show. This is going to be fantastic. And yeah, so we soaked our feet in her magnesium foot soak. My husband didn't. He had an intuition not to, and I'm so glad he didn't, because he was the one driving us. And my friend and I were just zonked after soaking our feet. We were just ready to lie down. We were so relaxed. And luckily he didn't, because he would have been way too relaxed to drive home in all the traffic. But yeah, that was our first experience. And so after Kristen's health lecture, I ran up to her, bought a bunch of bottles of it, said, "I'm going to be soaking all of our feet. We're going to do the 30-day challenge. And I'm definitely going to get a bunch of my friends," because I was immediately thinking of several friends and family members that could benefit from it, especially those who have digestive issues, who have absorption issues, or if they've ever taken magnesium and they've kind of been turned away from it because as a supplement, it can really cause a lot of, irritation if they take too much. And yet we're all magnesium deficient. And so this is the easiest way. You can take a bath in it, or you can soak your feet. So easy. And we ran home, and I still kind of was pinching myself thinking, maybe that was just, a fluke that we felt great, right? And let's test it out, because I'm an open-minded skeptic. And sure enough, we tested it on our son, and oh, wouldn't you know, the first time he had a bath in it, he went to sleep. He actually told us, it's like book reading time. He like told us, "I'm done with the bath. I want to do the books." And then it took us like half the amount of books to read to him. And then he was like, "Okay, turn off the light." He told us to turn off the light. And this is like a 3-year-old who would be up to midnight if it was up to him. And so, and night after night, we used the magnesium foot soak in his bath, and we continue to get this really great relaxation feeling, all of us. I had some amazing things happen around my detoxification. So I noticed right away that my heavy metal detoxification started to kick in. I could taste heavy metals in my mouth. I had other symptoms. And so it was really interesting that how well it worked. It wasn't placebo. It absolutely worked. Then anytime a friend came over to our house, we started doing the magnesium foot soak with a friend that would come over, and they would notice, just one session, they would notice a difference. So we stopped pinching ourselves. We realized it was actually real. And I called up Kristen and said, okay, first of all, I'm going to be telling all my listeners about this. So we definitely need to get you on the show. And she was so nice enough to give us a discount. So, Kristen, I'm just thrilled. Today's the day we finally have you here. And now we finally get to learn about you, how you invented this foot soak, the amazing business you've created that spreads wellness. I'm just so excited to learn all these things from you.
Ashley, I know how dedicated you are for you to go to that class in Seattle, knowing the traffic. So at one point, it told us on Google Maps, it said we were 1 minute away, but it would take us 38 minutes to drive there. And we were like, oh my gosh, what have we done? Do we just get out of the car and start hauling magnesium up there? It was crazy. So thank you for your dedication to your health, because I am so glad that I got to meet you.
Absolutely. I just had a strong intuition. When my friend tagged me, I thought, I've got to be there. I have this information to spread to my listeners. I got to be there. So let's start by learning about you. I'd love to hear your story.
Okay.
Because I know you've got an interesting story that led you to be this fantastic, wonderful female entrepreneur. I just think in this, but it's a family business. So those are two big things. So many women I want to find empowerment in their life so that they can include their family, so that they can create their own business if that's what they want to achieve. Both my parents were entrepreneurs, and it's so freeing to be able to do something with your family, and also build success together and do something that gives back to people. So I'd love to hear your story. What happened in your life that led you to create these amazing magnesium products?
Well, let's see. Where do I start? I had health issues even as a little girl. Never could put all of the pieces together. And so my parents, not I don't mean this in a demeaning way to them, they just kept putting band-aids on it. They never quit looking for help, but it just would be another band-aid. And so I kind of grew out of the health issues during my teenage years, and then my early 20s, the autoimmune started to kick in. And so lots of different autoimmune diagnoses, but the big crash, that's what my family calls it. The big crash actually happened in 2003. And actually, we're coming up to the date in October 2003 is when I had the big crash. And what facilitated that was I had just had a baby and I was having some bladder issues and leaking. And so I called my sisters and I'm like, what the heck is going on? And both of them said, oh, you just had a baby and your bladder has probably fallen. You need to go to an OB-GYN and get your bladder tied up. And so I called the OB-GYN and told them what was going on and went in for an appointment. And of course, the bladder had fallen. And so we made an appointment to tie my bladder up. And at that point, the current trend was they would put your bladder in a sling, and the sling was made out of cadaver graft, and then they would take two little titanium screws and screw that in your pelvic bone and then hang the sling on the screws and put your bladder in that sling. And so I had the surgery done, and on the table during the surgery, my heart stopped. So I went in, someone who definitely had autoimmune, but was, functional and relatively healthy, getting through the day. And my heart kept stopping on the table. And then after the surgery, I started having seizures. And I couldn't remember things. I couldn't remember the names of my children. I
Oh my
couldn't
gosh.
remember, just like my body just started crashing. And so over the course of 3.5 years, I ended up in a wheelchair, having seizures, being fed with TPN, total perinatal nutrition. So being fed through a tube, having a catheter, for my bladder because it just quit working. And my husband never gave up.
How
And
old were you?
it would have been 16 years ago, and I'm 52. So what would that be? So I was 36. So I was 36 when it happened. So for 3.5 years, it just kept getting worse and worse, to the point that a good day for me was opening my eyes on the couch. My husband actually took a leave of absence from his job because it was more than what my children could do to take care of me. I had 6 children at the time. We had just adopted 2 children from the foster care system, and so they were new to our home. I have children born of my heart and children born of my body. And it was a stress on any child, but specifically our 2 children that we had just brought into our home, because they had already come from such trauma, and we wanted things smooth and strong for them. And so my husband decided I need to take a leave of absence because I was so non-functional. And he just started taking me from doctor to doctor. We went to Mayo Clinic, we went to Stanford, and nobody could put it together. Why did this person go in for this bladder tie-up and end up not being able to even drink water, take food, and I now sit in a wheelchair and have all of these seizures? And my husband just kept saying, something happened on that table. Something changed her chemistry. And he would even ask them, could you check and see, because you hear of like a sponge being left in, or,
Mm-hmm.
maybe they left something in. We were desperate. We were just absolutely desperate. At that point, him more than I was so out of it, I didn't realize the trauma and the stress that it was putting on my family. And we never could find a doctor that was willing to look at out of the box solutions. And it got to the point where he had to go back to bring an income back in. We went a year and a half with no income, but we needed that coming back in again. And so we were actually transferred, and he was listening to a radio show and heard a physician's assistant that was talking, and just he said, Kristen, he was just talking out of the box solutions. And he thought to himself, this is someone who will listen to me, because we had not felt listened to in so many of the situations, wanting to look at what happened during that surgery. My wife didn't have seizures before the surgery, and during the surgery, seizures happened. And so it just made sense to us. It was something that happened during that surgery, but doctors didn't want to look at that. And so we went to this physician's assistant, and he listened to our story and he said, you know what? I'm clueless. And right there, we really liked him, because he didn't try to blow us off. He didn't try to throw things at us that we knew. He was just making hot air. He just said, I'm clueless. He said, but I want to do some research. This really intrigues me, and I want to see if I can find any case studies or anyone else that's had the situation. And so he wanted us to give him a month. And so we went back to him a month later, and he said, I've found some things that I'm really interested if you'd be willing to try it out. And what he'd found was people with autoimmune, there was a small percentage of people that went into surgery with autoimmune that actually had a reaction to the metal in the titanium, even though the thinking at the time was titanium was inert.
Mm-hmm.
And he looked at us and he said, would you be willing to go back on the table and we'll redo this bladder tie up and take the titanium out of you? And that was a huge decision for my husband to make, because I had come so close to dying, and I had these 6 kids that I wanted to raise, and we wanted to be together. But we decided, him and my mom actually, I don't remember being a part of this decision-making process, but they came together and decided that the quality of my life was so non-existent that we were willing to take a drastic measure. And so we set the date for the surgery. They went in, and another thing that they found in the surgery was that my cadaver graft did not have, they're numbered with a number so they can track them. My cadaver graft did not have one. And so the assumption was made that my cadaver graft was bought on the black market and it had mold on it. So the combination of the reaction to the titanium and the mold just shut my body down. And so, you know how when you come, if you've ever experienced coming out of surgery and you're kind of groggy, and sometimes I guess you say some funny things, and it takes you a while to really connect back wholeheartedly to that mind body connection that you and I both know is so important for good health. Even moments after that surgery, Ashley, I knew that something was better
Wow.
because I could think, I could process, I could remember my children. And so at that point, we knew that we had made the right decision. But it left me in this really horrific quality and all sorts of issues, that and no energy. I couldn't raise my arms. The bone fatigue was so intense. So in some ways we were just so over the moon, and in other ways I was still devastated because the quality of my life was so low. And so it just led me to searching out of the box solutions, and I chased symptoms for so long. And one of the things that I teach now to my clients is don't chase symptoms, build a strong foundation. Chasing symptoms is expensive, and it leaves you with a cupboard full of supplements that you quit using because they didn't work. And so building a strong foundation became my whole and entire filter. And everything that I looked at, I would ask myself, am I chasing a symptom or am I building a strong foundation? And magnesium is that foundation. And soaking in magnesium gets you to cell saturation. I don't want just a relaxed muscle. Relaxed muscles are great, but I want cell saturation. And you can't get there orally with oral magnesium. And so soaking in it is what can get you to cell saturation. And so at the time, it was the most devastating thing that had ever happened. It ruined my family financially. We'd actually been homeless for a while because of it. But looking back, it was the best thing that ever happened, because I have freedom now like I've never experienced before, from physical freedom because I have a healthy body to financial freedom because I'm able to build this business, and relationship freedom because I get to hang out with my family. And once those adult kids grow up and move away, you don't get to see them as much. But because we have this family business, we interact with each other every day and ask questions like, are we serving our clients well enough? How can we serve them better? What technology can we bring in? And so as the business outgrew my strengths, it's been amazing to bring my family on and hire them and pay them really well and get to hang out with people that I love and help me build it to even serve more people.
I love it. I love it. So let's go back. You have recovered from this surgery. You were feeling worlds better. How soon until the seizure stopped and you got out of the wheelchair?
So, and these will be approximate because at that point, my memory isn't super
Sure.
good. My husband has like exact dates. He can tell you exact, this is the date that this happened. So this is approximate. The seizures continued. They definitely massively slowed down because I was having anywhere from 18 to 30 seizures a day pre-surgery. And so after the surgery, they slowed down to 1 or 2 a day. And so the seizures drastically slowed down. But Ashley, I wanted more. It was like I got a little taste of health back, but it wasn't enough. I wanted more. I wanted the seizures gone. I wanted to be able to drive again. I wanted to be able to get up and shower myself. And so it was when we found the magnesium that, and please understand to your listeners, Ashley, it would be inappropriate of me to say, oh, soaking in magnesium will clear up everyone's seizures, because it won't. Seizures are very multifaceted. For me and the experience that I had, it did. And so it was finding that magnesium and soaking in that magnesium that my seizures completely went away, and I haven't had seizures for years. And so since from the surgery date so that slowed them down to 1 or 2 a day. And then finding the magnesium, it was about 12, 14 weeks that the seizures completely stopped and went away.
How did you I know you were, like, searching everything, right? I'm sure you were
Yes.
looking at herbal medicine, and I mean,
Oh,
can you rattle off some of the things you tried before you found the magnesium?
um, we tried herbal medicine, we tried naturopaths, we tried chiropractics, we tried lots of different modalities of energy healing. We tried food elimination. We just, if we heard of anything that helped anyone in an out of the box extreme situation, we tried it. And it's very expensive to do that. And and so that's when the magnesium made such a difference, not only in my seizures, but my bone fatigue and my sense of smell changed and my energy changed and the tension in my muscles and I slept better and my hormones. And that's when I really started building and forming my philosophies toward health, in that I wasted so much time chasing down symptoms instead of building a strong foundation and giving my body at the cellular level the basics that it needed to have a strong cellular function.
How did you discover soaking in magnesium? Like, I mean, just out of everything, I mean, must feel like divine intervention. How did that come to you?
So we had a neighbor that came to us and said, because it was obvious how desperate we were because I was so sick. I got clear down. I am about 5'7" and I weigh about 150. I rotate between about 155, 160, and I got clear down in the high 70s on my weight. And so it was
You were like
very
79
obvious.
pounds?
Yes,
Oh
it
my
was very
gosh.
obvious when you looked at me that I was a very sick person. You didn't have to know me personally to, you just looked at me and you knew that I was a very, very sick person. And so lots of people would come to us and say, try this. My sister in law tried this, or my next door neighbor tried this, or my brother sells this. And we were just at this place of desperation because we had been raised in very Western medical homes, and you did what the doctor said. And so that was what we did when I got sick. We went the Western route and we did what the doctor said. And it just didn't work, Ashley. And I had more symptoms because I was on so many medications. I didn't know what was a side effect from the medications and what was a symptom from the disease. And so it really helped us look outside the box and be open and receptive to those people who were coming to us with all of these different solutions. And so we would try it. And this lady came and she said, "This is just going to sound so crazy, but my sister-in-law has been soaking in this magnesium and it helped her so much. And now my whole family is soaking in it and it's helped us with so many different things." And she said, I want to leave you this jug of magnesium. Please soak in it." And we were impressed with the fact that she wasn't trying to sell us something. And please understand, selling something is not wrong. But we did sometimes feel like prey, in that we had
Mm.
a lot of people that were trying to sell us things, and it got very overwhelming. And so one of the reasons that we leaned into her was she gifted it to us
Mhm.
and said, "Here, try this." and and she just was so passionate about helping us, and that helped me form the basis of my company. It's not about sales, it's about helping people. It's about making a difference and sharing information and education so that people can make the best decisions for the journey of where they're at right then. And so we used it. We were so impressed by her and her passion to help us, and so we used it. And it was, for me, it was like a sponge soaking up needed nutrition. My husband didn't really experience anything the first time he soaked, but for me, it was just, oh my gosh, can I soak again? I feel better. I feel better. And so we use that magnesium that she brought us, we use that brand for probably about, I want to say a year and a half, that we continued to order that and used it and continued to see benefits. And then all of a sudden it quit working.
Mm.
And we were like, what the heck is happening?
They
And
changed they changed where they got it from, didn't they?
well, two things happened. They changed where they got it from, and the FDA, the way it's written, you don't have to tell people if you put water and magnesium because it already has water in it if it's coming from the sea
They
brine.
diluted it.
And so they diluted it, and so
Yeah.
we weren't getting as much magnesium, and so it wasn't helping us. And so that's when, so we went and had it tested. I'm a huge tester. I test everything. And those people who have had lots of chemical sensitivities will probably relate with me on that, because so many times a company will tell you this is what's in it, but the way the
Yep.
laws are written, they don't have to tell you everything, and you end up having a sensitivity to it because something was in it that you know you needed to stay away from. So I'm a huge tester. I don't go for what a company says. I test it in an independent lab. And so I happened to have an old jug that we'd had and a new jug, and we had them tested, and the new jug was 100 parts water to that magnesium. That there was such a dilution rate going on.
Wow.
And so that's when I turned to my husband, because it was my lifeline, Ashley, and it was the clarity in my brain and the hormones and the sleep and my thyroid function. And I turned to my husband, and remember, at this point I had my family doesn't blame me. I still feel very responsible, and I'm learning how to work through those emotions and let them go.
Yeah.
I feel very responsible because for that 3.5 years, my kids didn't have lessons. They didn't do soccer and piano because of the financial ruin that my health crisis put my family in. And so when I went to my husband and I said, and we had just started to build back up our 401k because we'd emptied it out to live on it. And I turned to my husband and I said, we have to import this. We have to bring this in, and I have enough people that will buy it from us because they're using it and they want a pure source, and we can control if it's pure and if it's watered down or not. Please, I beg you, please, 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 please let me do this. And he looked at me, and I'll never forget, the tear trickled down his face, and he said, Kristen, we can't take that risk. We are still recovering. And I tend to be a person who just jumps when I know it's right, when it feels right to me. And he's the one that follows through on the steps and makes decisions that way. And I had never felt so right about something, because at that point I had so many people calling me saying, I heard that you were able to heal after a massive health crisis. Can you help me? And I said, Morgan, I know that we can, that there are other people that are like us that want a pure product at a decent cost without it being watered down. And I just kept hounding him and I wore him down. And so he said, okay, let's do it. Because I'd bring someone in and I'd say, oh, tell my husband, would you be willing to buy magnesium from us if it wasn't watered down, it was a clean product, and it was a fair, reasonable cost? And I just kept, anyone who came to the house, I would ask them that question. At that point, we ran the business out of our home. And I just kept wearing them down with all these people saying, oh, we need a source. We need a source. We need a source. And we've lost our source. And so he finally, I wore him down enough. And so we took money out of our 401k and we imported our first QB container of magnesium, which was so scary because there's a certain point during importing that if you lose that product, you still have to pay for it, but you never get it. And so it was at that point that I realized the risk that this man had taken for me because of what my heart felt. And I think I fell in love with them all over again that day. And so we've been importing it ever since. And our promise to people is we will always import it from the cleanest source, which currently is the Zextine C, and we will never dilute it. And we will always keep our costs down as low as possible. We're a business. We have to stay in business. I have payroll that I need to make. So yes, we make money off of it, but our promise, our family's promise to people is we will not charge exorbitant prices for that undiluted pure magnesium.
I love it. The Zexian C, did I say that right?
The Zextine C,
Zextine.
currently,
Okay,
I
where
could
is the
get it from,
Zextine C? I feel like I
um,
failed
it's
geography. I have no idea where it
no,
is.
no, not at all. It's in the Netherlands, and it's so interesting. One, we don't call them employees; they're Team Good Life. So one of our team Good Life is actually Rochelle is actually from the Netherlands and speaks Dutch. And so she's able to help us connect with them and speak with them. They speak a little bit of English, but it's very broken, and we speak absolutely no Dutch. And so it's in the Netherlands. Currently, that's the cleanest place. We could get it from Russia, but it's very high in heavy metals, and I don't want to soak in something that's high in heavy metals. And we could get it from Utah, but that also is high in heavy metals. And so that Zextine C brine is the cleanest, best, with the highest cofactors currently that's available on the planet. And so that's where we get it from.
Now, I have many questions for you. Let's talk about the concentration. I was really impressed with the concentration of your magnesium foot soak because for an adult, it's only a quarter of a cup that you
Mhm.
put in the bath or you put in a foot basin, and it's
Yes.
half that for a child. A small child would do like an eighth of a cup.
Right.
Um, and how many, what's the amount of magnesium that's in that?
You know what? I will have to pull that. I don't keep numbers like that in my head, but I can pull that and get that for your listeners. The amount of magnesium that is in the quarter cup of the one thing I can share with you is it's a 33% solution. And so when that magnesium comes in, sometimes it goes higher. For example, we just had magnesium land yesterday and the lab results came back and it's a 38% solution, but it will never drop below a 33% solution. And so on our labels, it will say 33% solution. Now, sometimes it bumps up higher, but it never will drop below that because that would mean that that water and other liquid were being added to it.
Got it. Now, when I was at your class, I remember you had written down on the board how much magnesium was in a foot soak and that we absorb about 80% of it.
Oh, okay. So when you're soaking, this is one of the questions that people will have is how long do I soak and how do I know what's happening? And I wanted to be able to answer, but not just guessing. And so one of the things that we did, Ashley, is we brought in a lady who had a thermal imaging machine. For example, when you do like a breast scan, instead of having a mammogram done when you do thermal imaging, so she came in with her thermal imaging machine, and we started testing people who were soaking to see what happened so that I could have a foundation to answer people when they asked me that question. What we found with that thermal imaging testing is that most people in 20 minutes will absorb 80% of that magnesium. In 45 minutes, most people will absorb 98% of that magnesium in the water. And so that's why we tell people to soak between 20 to 45 minutes. If you don't have 20 minutes to soak, you're wasting the magnesium. And soaking over 45 minutes is fine. It's not detrimental, but you're not pulling up more magnesium. So you have this window of time between 20 and 45 minutes.
I always soak for an hour. I'm just
Yeah, I love it. A lot of times my family and I will soak together and we'll watch a movie and we'll soak the whole time. But 20 to 45 minutes is where the bulk of that uptake is really happening.
Now, from hearing what you'd said when I visited your workshop, I calculated that we absorb about 4 grams of magnesium at the most in a foot soak. Does that sound
Okay.
about right?
That does.
Which would take, a week to get in supplement form and or more, because just because it says 600 milligrams of magnesium doesn't magnesium citrate as a oral supplement, it doesn't mean it's a bioavailable, doesn't mean you're absorbing it.
Right.
And if you have digestive issues, it
You're
doesn't mean.
absorbing even less.
Right, exactly. And some person could go to get IV, magnesium, and get a few grams of IV magnesium. I've done that
Right.
before. It's wonderful, but it's not sustainable. We can't go every day or every week and have, IV nutrition. It's
Right.
also not, it's not really, I believe in that kind of medicine for people who are so malnourished that they need sort of just to get their foothold on their health. But
Yes.
for long term, it doesn't make sense. And to soak, and I was just baffled, like, that I'm actually absorbing 4 grams of magnesium, because I know what it feels like to get these IV injections of about 4 grams of magnesium. I know what that feels like, and I feel the same way when I'm soaking with your foot soak. So I'm like, okay, I must really be absorbing that much, and it's quite impressive. Now, tell us about, I want to kind of come back around and talk about, like, why is it that we're magnesium deficient? Why can't we just get this from our food? So we're going to talk about that, because I know
Okay.
there's always the person who says, I get all my nutrition from my food. What are you talking about? Um but first I want to talk about deficiency, because I know there are people out there who know they're magnesium deficient. They have restless legs, they have, the clear signs, right? They have,
Right.
and there's hundreds of symptoms that someone, it's not just like 3 symptoms. Like, if you have magnesium deficiency, you could have like crazy, like this, because it's used for 1800 processes in the body. It can be all kinds of weird symptoms, but the most common ones are things like muscle cramps, restless legs, having trouble sleeping at night. Those are kind of the more common ones. Well, and I want you to talk about the symptoms as well. So for those who are deficient, they know they're deficient. Tell us about this blood test, that, because again, you love blood tests, you
I
love
do.
testing. Tell us about this. How can we know for sure that where are we in terms of our deficiency? And then we do your foot soak, for example, and what should we see in the results of the blood test?
Okay. So one of the things, as I've formed my philosophies and put my thoughts together, as I've worked with thousands of clients now, is I realized we need to be current. Our grandparents did not have to worry about magnesium because they were getting it from their food. And we have to be current and understand what's happening currently that we need to be focused on to build optimal health. And so, because we can't get magnesium from our food, it used to be 10 years ago, you could go and just buy a regular red pepper from the store and get your day's worth of magnesium from that regular red bell pepper. And now you go, and even if you buy it organic, Ashley, it doesn't even have trace amounts of magnesium in it.
Mm.
We've we've overused synthetic fertilizer. That bell pepper is massive, but the nutritional quality of it is minimal. And so we simply must stay current. And the current thing that's happening is because of our lifestyles, because of electromagnetic frequencies, because of our food intake, our sugar intake, our stress levels, we are deficient in magnesium. And so it's crucial that we get those magnesium levels up. What would happen is I would work with a group of women and they would do the 30-day challenge. That's what we recommend at Living the Good Life Naturally, is soak every day for 30 days. And you'll miss a couple of days in there, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect, but do the 30-day challenge and try to soak every day for 30 days. And a lot of people were experiencing massive things. leg cramps were going away, tension in their shoulders was better, headaches were better, hormones were better, sleep was better, like your little boy experienced. And then some people weren't experiencing that. And I wanted to know why. Why is that happening? And so that's when I really fell in love with what's called the magnesium RBC test, red blood cell. Now, there are two tests that you can take to test your magnesium. And one is a magnesium blood serum test. Magnesium is so important to your body that your body will pull from your heart, from your pancreas, from your bones to keep your blood at 1% saturation. And if that blood serum test shows that you have a problem, we're in massive crisis. I don't want to test just for massive crisis. I want to thrive. And so the magnesium red blood cell tests for the magnesium around each red blood cell. And so it gives a more intimate, accurate picture of how you're utilizing that magnesium that you're soaking in. So, for example, if you have estrogen that's unopposed by progesterone. So if your estrogen progesterone is out of balance, that estrogen is going to block you uptaking that magnesium. And so is what I found happening with and I mainly work with women, is what I found happening is they'd soaked for 2 and 3 years. They'd do the 30-day challenge and they'd soak a couple times a week. And then they would get their blood work done and it was at a 3.4, which is so non-acceptable. But they've been thinking for 2 or 3 years that they were at cell saturation. And so what I like to see people do, people that are super motivated and want optimal health, do the 30-day challenge and then get your RBC testing done. Because if your body didn't move to a minimum of a 5 on that RBC testing, we have a crack in your foundation that we need to go in and course correct. Instead of going for 2 and 3 years, soaking, spot soaking, doing another challenge in January, then soaking a couple times during the week, but it's not really moving your numbers. Don't wait for 2 or 3 years. Let's find out right after that 30-day challenge. Let's find out where your numbers are. Now, optimal numbers are 6.3 to 7. I'm a 6.6. I was really excited when that came back. But after the 30-day challenge, as I've charted thousands of people that have had their magnesium testing done, if you're not at a 5, we have a crack in that foundation. Let's course correct it right there, not go for another year or 2. And so getting that RBC testing really shines the light on how strong your foundation is.
Where do you recommend, what labs do you like to recommend to use to get the magnesium RBC test?
I live in California and then my business is in Utah. My retail portion of my business and the warehouse for the business is in Utah. And so I go back and forth between those 2 states. Most people can go to walkinlabs.com and they can get their labs done and they can put in their zip code and it will tell them what labs are close. So for example, today I'm sitting in San Luis Obispo and I have a lab 2.5 miles from my home. When I'm in Logan, Utah at the warehouse, I have to drive about 40 minutes. Now, last week I was working with a client and she's in South Carolina and she got on and the lab was 4 hours from her home. And so it really depends where you live. Walk-in labs, for the majority of people, unless you're very rural, they will have a lab close to you. So walk-in labs and then the magnesium RBC test. And it runs about $47, $49. And a lot of times you can find a coupon code for it online.
Oh my gosh, that's so affordable. Yay.
It's very affordable.
I was thinking, how many hundreds of dollars is this test?
No, 47 or 49. They contract with different labs. And so depending on which lab you need to go with, depending on your zip code, one of them is 47 and the other is 49. So it's very, very affordable. And literally, Ashley, so many people will get that testing done 2 or 3 years into it, and they'll see, I'm not even at a 5 yet. And so that's when we need to look at B vitamins. We need to look at the estrogen progesterone balance. Is it estrogen that's blocking that magnesium uptake? What is it that we're not absorbing that magnesium? And let's discover that 30 days in, not 2 years.
This is very interesting. What other things off the top of your head can you think of that would create that imbalance? Because for the last 7 years I've worked with naturopaths, like worked alongside them
Right,
as a distributor of a supplement line developed by a naturopath, and I've worked with hundreds and hundreds of people, and most of the time I can say, like, taking multi liquid multi-mineral with magnesium, I see people like have their doctors take them off of their blood pressure medication, because
right.
that's how powerful supplementing with minerals when you are deficient, right? And magnesium deficiency can cause high blood pressure. But
Absolutely.
there's some people, like, upon occasion, where it's like no amount of minerals that they were consuming internally, right, orally, was affecting their blood pressure. And all their tests came back like their kidneys were fine, everything was fine, couldn't figure out what was going on. Of course, at this point, I didn't know about your company. I didn't know about soaking in magnesium, because I would definitely have told them to do that. But in the rare case that their blood pressure never changed, even though everything else seemed like they were, getting enough minerals, you're saying that something can happen, like a crack in the foundation, that disrupts the body's ability to utilize magnesium?
Yes. Okay, so Ashley, are you okay if we go on a little bit of a bunny trail right
Please
now?
do. Yes, we're going
Okay,
down the rabbit hole.
okay, down the rabbit hole. So I ran a program, and it was a hormone balancing program. And Ashley, it rocked. It was an amazing program. And we had, it was about 158 women in that program. And you can tell when women are applying the action steps
Mhm.
or if they're just skimming. And so if women are just skimming, we know that the program's not going to work because they're not following through and making the changes. Those women who are applying the action steps, I get excited because I'm like, okay, this is a great program. Hormones are going to be balanced and all sorts of things are going to change in their lives. And yay, I got to be a part of that. There was this small percentage of women who did the action steps of that hormone program, Ashley, that nothing moved. And it made me mad because they had done the action steps. It was an awesome program and it didn't work for them. And that reflected failure. And that's not acceptable to me. And so I went to that group of women and I said to them, here's the deal. There is something for us to learn from this. I don't know what it is. I'm willing to hang in there if you are. And so I offered them continued coaching at no cost if they would continue to give me feedback, and we would work together to figure out what in the heck had happened, that this program, that the majority of women rocked their hormones and were feeling awesome. Their sex drive was back. They were sleeping. They saw the difference in their skin. They were just feeling amazing, but it hadn't worked for this small percentage of women. And so I right now have such gratitude for those women because what I learned rocked my world personally in my own life. And I've been able to share it with so many other people that it's changed their life. And it comes down to shame. So, for example, Ashley, think of someone who has rage. I unfortunately had rage as a young mom. I was overwhelmed, I was tired, I didn't have skills, and I could go from 0 to 60 in less than a second. So, Ashley, tell me what it looks like when you see someone that has an explosive temper. What do you see?
Cortisol spike. They're in fight or flight mode. So their body is shunting blood away from the logic centers of their brain to their limbs, shunting blood away from their core, away from their immune system and from their digestive tracts. They're no longer properly digesting and absorbing nutrition. It shuts down even long term. That would shut down epigenetic processes for immediate survival to sacrifice long-term health.
Right. So, and we know it's very obvious externally when someone has that rage cortisol. They get red in the face, their movements become very erratic. Sometimes they yell, and it's very obvious to the people around them there is some rage going on. Let's talk about shame, because shame does the very same thing, the very same processes that you so beautifully, eloquently talked about. What happens when there's rage cortisol? Shame is quiet and it is internal and it cannot be seen externally. And what might cause shame for you, Ashley, won't cause shame for me. And what causes shame for me might not even faze you. And that shame cortisol is so detrimental to healing. And all of these women had been tapped into shame for years.
Wow.
And because they had lived with high cortisol levels, their bodies were not absorbing that magnesium, because we know when cortisol levels go up, magnesium gets pushed out through the urine. The very thing that you need to calm yourself back down, we lose in the process of that fight or flight. But shame is quiet. Shame doesn't raise its head like rage does. And so they didn't realize and didn't understand the consequences of their addiction to shame. And so as we started talking, and there was about 4 women that were pretty open and verbal about their life experiences and what they had come from and abuse in their background. And so I realized that's the first pattern in this entire group of women, that this hormone protocol and their magnesium numbers are not moving. And so the next call that we had, I opened it up and I said, okay, I want to help you understand how detrimental shame is. And I want you to start understanding the process of shame, what it feels like when you're standing in shame. And I want you to understand the connection that you're walking away from your health at that point. So these 13 women that came from the larger group, that the hormone protocol had not worked for them, the magnesium had not moved their numbers, it had more to do with internal healing and creating a stronger mind-body connection. So at that point, I was able to share some tools with them, and we worked on the process of shame. And I gave them 3 months to utilize those tools, work on the process of shame. And then I said, okay, let's come back and let's start the hormone protocol over again. And let's just see what happens. It worked. Their magnesium numbers moved and their hormones balanced. So we have to be talking about cortisol, but in a way that women understand. It's not just rage cortisol. There's a component of shame cortisol that is very quiet that a lot of women buy into. And if you're buying into that shame cortisol and standing in that place of shame on a daily basis, those magnesium numbers are not going to move, because your cortisol is continually, constantly pushing it away.
Fascinating. So cortisol, so it could be someone who is there's certain stages of adrenal, there's 3 stages of adrenal exhaustion or adrenal fatigue. And at one point during those 3 stages, people actually have elevated cortisol, and so cortisol spikes. And I know from personal experience, because I had chronic adrenal fatigue and type 2 diabetes, and exhaustion, and I was very deficient in nutrients. So there's these times before you get to the end of it, like the late stages of it, where there's just like no cortisol left, and you're just a zombie, where you have these giant spikes. And so during those times, they would be dumping the body because of it's processing all the cortisol is dumping magnesium, or
Yes.
is the body using magnesium excessively to handle the cortisol?
It depends at which stage that you're at. But when you have that cortisol, no matter if it's which stage, no matter how big the spike, your body will lose the precious magnesium through your urine that you actually need to hang on to at that point. And as the problem progresses, it just gets progressively worse. And you can be soaking in it, but if you're not connecting that mind body connection and
Hmm.
doing that internal work to let go of that shame and process through it, you don't hold on to that magnesium. We've got to get on top of and share tools with women to help them recognize that shame cortisol is just as detrimental as rage cortisol, but it's quiet and we don't see it. And all of these women, if I could use one word to sum them up, kind. They were incredibly kind women. They weren't women that you would look at and think, oh, they've got a massive addiction to cortisol. But they did. It was just quiet through that shame process.
Wow. And so, for those who really resonate with what you just shared, can you point them in the direction that would help them to work through those emotions? Is there any tools, resources, books
Oh,
that you recommend?
I love journaling.
Mm-hmm.
Journaling is such a powerful tool. And I think sometimes in our quest to find the newest and the latest that's out there, we overlook a time proven, simple, effective tool of journaling. So I think journaling is a really, really powerful way to combat and to get that perspective from what we're experiencing internally. Another one would be energy work. There's lots of different forms of energy work. I'm a huge fan of emotional freedom technique, EFT. I like tools that I don't have to continually go to someone else and be dependent upon them. I love freedom. And so I like tools that I can learn quickly and utilize myself so that I don't have to wait for another appointment. I can just use it in the moment that I need it. So those would probably be two of my favorite is the emotional freedom technique and good old school journaling.
Love it. Excellent. Can you talk about the symptoms of, because you've been an expert about magnesium for a long time. Can you tell us the symptoms of magnesium deficiency? I know we've discussed some, but what are some lesser known symptoms of magnesium deficiency?
Lesser known symptoms. I think a lot of people don't realize how connected magnesium is to their gut health, to their peristaltic action. So they don't look at that chronic constipation as a magnesium deficiency. That's one that people will come back. And this one doesn't happen in the beginning, it comes with long term maintenance of keeping your magnesium levels up. People will come back and say, oh my gosh, Kristen, my bowels move so easily now. And that's because magnesium gets that peristaltic action moving. You need magnesium to jumpstart that. And as your body has that, the bowels start to move more effectively. The biggest thing is the adrenals. A lot of people don't realize how crucial magnesium is for your adrenals. I consider adrenals the holding point for your health. And I'll often tell people you can only be as healthy as your adrenals are strong. And so it's one of those foundational pieces. We must build our adrenals, and it's crucial that they need magnesium. And one of the things that's happening is this never used to happen. And it started about 2.5, 3 years ago. People would soak in magnesium and be like, there's that relaxation that you talked about earlier that your family experienced. And then there's just pure exhaustion where you can't even move your arms. And now in a magnesium class, we'll have as much as 15% of the people experience that. And as what's happening is you're so deficient in magnesium and potassium, and your body gets that magnesium that it needs. It gets so excited to pull the magnesium up, it drops your potassium. And we're seeing that more and more. In fact, it's becoming commonplace where it used to be rare. And so our adrenals are getting weaker. That potassium is crucial to put your adrenals into that beautiful renewal stage that we all want to be in, so that we've got that optimal healing going on in our body. So I want people to understand that connection between their adrenal health and magnesium. And then the last one would be the DHEA levels. DHEA is like the mama boss of hormones, and tells the hormones where to show up and where to go. And magnesium self-balances that. So if they're too low, it will bring them up. And if they're too high, it will bring them down. And so that connection of hormones with magnesium is crucial for people to understand. And not that magnesium is going to cure every hormone, it's going to build a strong foundation for your hormones to start functioning and interacting better with each other.
So men and women alike, so all hormones, sex hormones, stress
Yes.
hormones, all hormones are insulin, like is all hormones affected by magnesium?
Yes, all hormones are affected by magnesium. And so many times women will come to me and they've spent thousands of dollars to do a hormone therapy program, and they didn't have enough magnesium. And you've got to have that strong foundation built before you, and I'm not against those other options, but let's make sure we start at the beginning, and let's make sure we've got good, strong magnesium numbers and a good, strong omega-3 fatty acid balance, so that those hormones that you're taking can actually work in your body and be utilized.
What about thyroid? What about thyroid?
Oh,
Can we talk about thyroid health? A lot of our listeners have, well, I know Hashimoto's and autoimmune. I want to talk about autoimmune next, but just thyroid health in general. How does magnesium support thyroid health?
magnesium is so important for thyroid health and that conversion of T4 to T3. And if you're not converting from T4 to T3, your energy is going down. And then after the energy starts to tank, you start to put a spare tire around your waist of weight. That's a T4 T3 conversion issue. And your body needs magnesium to make that happen. And if you don't have enough, that's one of the first places it starts to show up. So having enough magnesium supports digestion, supports adrenals, supports thyroid, supports hormones.
You talked about people, their potassium levels dropping in the first few times that they do the foot soaks. That's because they have adrenal issues?
That's someone who their adrenal issues are a little bit more advanced and their potassium has dropped. And so their body gets so excited to pick up that magnesium that they drop even more potassium and they just feel horrible. And so there's a really quick way that you can balance that. You can put about a half a teaspoon of baking soda in about a half a cup of water and drink that. And that alkalinity will help bring balance back into your body. You can drink some coconut water that's rich in potassium, and we see that helping also.
Eating a banana?
Eating a banana, an avocado, some lentils are really good and rich sources of potassium. I don't see it doing a quick course correction like the liquids do. So absolutely, yes, that will support it, but I don't see it bringing someone back. I mean, literally, they just slump in the chair in those magnesium classes. And that's when you know, okay, we've got to get some potassium in them. And definitely it helps, but I don't see it bringing them back like a glass of coconut water or the baking soda does. I think the liquid is easier to absorb the potassium from, and it doesn't have to go through quite the digestive process that an avocado or a banana would.
And for those like, I know that there's some people thinking, well, you just told us that there's no nutrition in our food. And now you're telling us there's potassium in our food. So which one is it? It's because farmers will fertilize with NPK. So you're going to get potassium is one of the things that we're likely not going to be deficient in. Um, if we eat foods from the ground, because, or if we need some potassium, we can get it still, because that is one of the things they do tend to put back in the soil. But there's 77 trace minerals and elements that they for the last 100 years have not been remineralizing the soil like they used to. People don't know that before, when we all did very small, when everyone had like a family farm or small farm, small garden, we were, not giant big agra. They would rotate crops. They would burn for like the forest, the particular area, and all the ash would get mixed into the soil, so they're mineralizing the soil. We would cook on an open fire, or we'd have stoves that were, my friend has one. It's really cool. This, you chuck a bunch of pieces of wood in there, and you can cook on it. But that's what we'd have. And so we'd have lots of ash, either from heating the house or from cooking every day. And we'd throw our ash into the garden, because that ash is minerals. And so we were remineralizing the soil all the time until we got electric stoves. We started, using chemical fertilizers. We stopped rotating crops. We stopped doing anything intuitive with farming. And then we started pouring tons of chemicals. And now in the last, 20 years, the chemicals that we've been pouring on the soil are chelators, like glyphosate. I've had several experts on the show talk about this, that glyphosate was originally invented by Monsanto as a pipe cleaner. So it would go through a pipe
Oh,
and it would chelate. It would bind to the heavy metals that had kind of accumulated on a pipe, and it would clean the pipe. And then they discovered that if they poured it on vegetation, it would kill the vegetation, because it's doing all kinds of damage as a toxin. But somehow they actually were able to bribe and blackmail and get it passed as, being approved for human consumption. And so we've been eating chelators, eating a chemical. If you don't eat 100% organic, and even organic food sometimes can be contaminated with these pesticides, which are chelators, these, herbicides and pesticides. But because these chemicals are being poured into our water, into our soil, into the air, if you're near a farm, we are ingesting an agent that binds to our minerals and removes them from our body, and also removes them from our soil. So we're really up against it. It's hard to get all the nutrition we need from food now more than ever. And luckily, things like coconuts are not, they don't go around spraying glyphosate on coconut fields. So I can understand why you suggest drink coconut water. I had a mother once swear to me, she's a mother of 5 kids, and she swore that drinking some brine from pickle juice would stop cramps, because her kids would wake up in the middle of the night with like leg cramps, and she'd have them drink some pickle juice and the leg cramp would go away. And she swore that that was a good source of potassium. But I think people would much prefer drinking some coconut water to walking around with a jar of pickles. I don't know.
yeah, there you go. I'll take the coconut water. I'd use the pickle juice in a pinch, though.
Absolutely. Yeah, if it's in the fridge, there you go. Oh, interesting. And what about the opposite effect? So I'm not sure if you saw this in the Learn to Health Facebook group, but we do have a woman who she's done the 30-day challenge with her family. Her whole family has a great sleep, and she is up all night. She says the magnesium foot soak has an opposite effect on her, and it gives her so much energy. She just cannot believe how great she feels, but she would really love to have that relaxation that everyone else is experiencing. So what happens? Why do some people get a lot of energy from doing the foot soak?
We've found, as because we've got clients that experience that also, and they'll come back and say, "What is happening? I want that relaxation." What we've found is it all goes back to the stage of healing that their adrenals are in. The more what I call wired and tired your adrenals are, you'll get those surges of energy from the magnesium as the adrenals become richer with that needed nutrient. And as she continues to soak, that will start to balance out and the relaxation will come. But it's so annoying in the process. And so we tell people, if you're experiencing that, we need deep, restful, restorative sleep. That is crucial to healing. And if you're experiencing the magnesium waking you up, giving you that energy, let's put your soaking in the morning until we can get your adrenals calm and restful and experiencing that deep relaxation that can come with magnesium.
Ah, very good. I told her she needs to look into sleep hygiene, wear some blue blocking glasses and focus on restoring her sleep. And the foot soak in the morning is a great idea for for those that get energy from it. What a great way to wake up. Instead of some
Yeah,
coffee, you can just soak in some magnesium. Now, why not take this as a supplement? Like, can we talk about why we can't reach the optimal saturation through ingesting?
right. So I want to explain my filter on this because this is one that kind of riles people a little bit. I get a lot of emails on this one. So I made the decision I don't do anything that's a short term benefit when it comes to my health. So, for example, back in the day, I used to drink mass amounts of Diet Coke. And the reason that I did is it gave me a short term benefit of a little boost of energy from the caffeine. But the long term consequences were horrible on my liver, my bones, my brain, my gut, but I kept selling out for the short term benefit. And so, one of the course changes that I made in my own life, and I see my clients making in their life, is that they walk away from that short term benefit and they always look at the long term investment. So, oral magnesium will give you some short term benefits, but we are not we are not meant to take synthetic isolated nutrition and have it support our body. If synthetic isolated nutrition worked, Ashley, we could go to a big box store and buy Centrum. I'd buy Centrum Silver for grandmas, and you could buy Centrum for young kids. And we could get all of our nutrients from that synthetic nutrition that's in that pill. We know it doesn't work. And so also, when you take that magnesium, it decreases peristaltic action. It slows that down in your digestive system and it decreases your body's ability to uptake nutrients from food. I'm not willing to hand over those long term benefits for the short term solution. I like to soak, bypass digestion, and move my magnesium RBC numbers quickly. And you can't take enough oral magnesium to move those RBC numbers because you'd have horrible. My kids are like, Mom, don't say diarrhea, but you do. You get, if you take too much, my kids, I'm going to tell them, don't listen to this podcast with Ashley. I talk diarrhea. But when you take too much magnesium, we get diarrhea from it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's upsetting that peristaltic action and it's slowing it down piece by piece. And that digestion is crucial to upload those precious trace minerals and all of those nutrients. And I'm not willing to hand that over to a pill that's synthetic and isolated to get that short-term benefit of relaxation in my muscles when it can't get me the cell saturation. And I see so many people using oral magnesium to keep their bowels moving. And that's just, it breaks my heart because there's such a long-term consequence that they're paying for that.
I love it that you can absorb 4 grams of magnesium soaking your feet for, 40 minutes to an hour. And I noticed that it didn't cause diarrhea. Like, I was wondering, like, would that cause it? But it's because it's not in the gut, it's getting into the blood. And so and
Right.
then it's going straight to all the cells in the body. Um, so what about why can we absorb it? Like, there's skin. Like, why does magnesium how is it that magnesium can get through all of our skin and into our cells through our feet? Like, or into our, blood circulation through our feet? Like, how does that even work?
So back in the 50s, when they were doing studies, the thinking at the time was that our skin was like an armadillo pad, that nothing penetrated it. But we know that is not accurate. Think of nicotine patches, think of hormone patches. Our skin is our largest organ and it absorbs what we put on it. And so we're just utilizing that organ to bypass digestion and get magnesium into our body.
Good point. Now, can all minerals, could we like sit in a bath of vitamin C or sit in a bath of, calcium and have the same effect? Or is there something about your magnesium that is more absorbed by the body?
I wish we could just put all the nutrients and hang out in the bathtub and take a good long soak. It depends on the size of the molecule. So, for example, boron is a cofactor of magnesium. Boron is crucial and holds magnesium in the cells. And so you can uptake, like I'll put a little pinch of boron in my bath water, but you don't uptake a lot of it because of the size of the boron. It won't penetrate through the skin. So we're so lucky that this beautiful master mineral of magnesium that holds all the other minerals in place, that it's the proper size that we can absorb it through our skin.
Interesting. So we would absorb some boron or
Some very, very, very small amounts. So I will add some boron to my bath water when I soak in magnesium because boron does help you hold magnesium in the cells. So, for example, if you're a high magnesium burn rate person, you've got high stress, you're eating a lot of sugar, you're drinking soda, you've just set yourself up to burn through magnesium very quickly. And so I'll say to them, put a little bit of boron in your bath water because you will absorb that. I also ingest boron. That's probably a whole nother podcast, but I take boron internally to help me hold on to that magnesium. But you do absorb a very small amount through your skin.
got it. Now, I had Dr. Carolyn Dean on the show,
Oh,
and
isn't
that
she
was, yeah,
amazing?
she's fantastic. And that was a 2-hour interview. And we could have gone longer. It was just like we could have gone, 5 hours. I mean, she's just a wealth
Yeah.
of knowledge. I highly recommend all listeners listening to that episode for the information about magnesium because we cover so much. And what I already knew a lot about magnesium because I've been following her for years. But what just amazed me was that magnesium is the most important mineral in the body, like 5 times more important than any other mineral, because we all think calcium is the most important mineral,
No, 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 no.
right?
Magnesium.
Magnesium just does not get enough press, but calcium gets all this press because the agricultural industry is trying to sell us cow's milk.
Right.
And we need, apparently we need, cow's milk to build bones and stop osteoporosis, but it's actually the opposite, that pasteurized cow's milk will cause osteoporosis. Now they're now science, like proven with science. And this is such a conundrum because we have been marketed to the point where we really believe we need our dairy to get calcium because that's the most important mineral. Doesn't everyone know? And here it is, magnesium is the most important mineral. Can you tell us some things that we haven't already discussed, some new things about magnesium that are kind of like your favorite,
Oh,
like pull you out of the matrix and just shock you how cool magnesium is?
oh yes. Let's talk about magnesium and pain. So we have pain receptors in our body and they are opened with calcium and they're closed with magnesium. Now, think of a person who's in pain. My husband is actually experiencing some chronic pain right now and it elevates your stress levels. And
Mm-hmm.
we know that when stress levels are elevated, cortisol goes up. And we know when cortisol goes up, magnesium gets pushed out through the urine. Well, the other thing that can happen is that pain center never turns off. So that person might not be experiencing that level of pain, but the neurotransmitters are still sending the signal because there wasn't enough magnesium to shut it down.
Wow.
And now, I am not saying that magnesium is going to cover and heal all pain and you won't experience, but someone who's experiencing pain, they desperately need more magnesium to keep that pain center operating and to keep it shut down when it needs to be shut down. And it simply takes magnesium to shut it down. And they have a higher burn rate. So, someone who has a lot of pain, they have to anticipate it's going to take more soaking to move my magnesium levels up because I am burning through it faster because of this pain. Once they get their levels up, though, they will come back and say, Kristen, my pain is diminished and I have more periods of not having pain because of the magnesium. And it's because they need that magnesium to shut down that cell receptor. Calcium opens it. And if you don't have enough magnesium, your pain receptor could just be stuck in the open mode with calcium. And we need that magnesium to come in and shut it down.
Fascinating. I'm really excited about that. So many people are in chronic pain.
Yes.
And so you're saying that if they're deficient magnesium, and since magnesium is the most important mineral, they likely are, and if they have had pain, then the body, it doesn't have enough magnesium to shut down the sensation of pain, even though the injury is gone, the pain remains.
Yes. And
Wow.
it's when you see, pain takes away the essence of who you are. It sucks you at your very soul level. And so anything that we can do to help someone in chronic pain walk away from that pain makes my heart sing. I love that. And sometimes people will come back and say, Kristen, the pain is gone. My arthritis pain is gone using the magnesium. It doesn't do that for everyone though. What it does do is it will help your body navigate that pain receptor center and shut it down and open it as your body needs to. But if you don't have enough, it just stays stuck in the open mode with calcium.
Got it. So just like magnesium is needed to relax a muscle, calcium is needed to contract the muscle, and every synaptic gap in the body needs these minerals to transmit healthy signals. So the
Yeah.
brain uses magnesium in conjunction with calcium, muscles use magnesium in conjunction with calcium, and that's why when people get cramps or restless legs, that is 100%, that is going to be a mineral deficiency, a mineral imbalance, most likely magnesium. Sometimes potassium can cause that too, but most likely it's magnesium, because magnesium tells the muscle to relax. Calcium can tell the body uses calcium to contract the muscle, it uses magnesium to relax the muscle. So you're saying it's sort of like that, but for the pain centers in the
Yes.
body. Got it. Now
Yes.
you've got this cream. I've never tried your cream before. But you have just raving reviews. Why did you guys develop a cream after, the foot soak does the job? You're, absorbing the magnesium. Why would you need to create a magnesium cream?
So we had a bunch of people who were working out at the gym, and they were understanding and helped me understand the benefit of magnesium that your muscles need to recover after a workout. And so they were in the gym, had done the workout, and wanted magnesium on, but it wasn't appropriate to soak. And so that's why we formulated that magnesium muscle cream. And it it is magical. It's the magic sauce. We love that stuff. And one of the things, when you were talking about the overuse of synthetic fertilizers, one of the reasons that makes that muscle cream so magical is we use what's called a permaculture olive oil. And so these olives are grown in California in this area that the farmer is so respectful to the land, and he uses what's called a permaculture system. And so he's building nutrients in his soil that are shuttling in those mycorrhizomes, shuttling back and forth, back and forth. And the olive oil that we use in that muscle cream is incredible in its properties that it has because of how it's grown, because he focuses on building the nutrients in his soil, and because he does that, the nutrients in his olives are better. And then you take that and you press it beautifully, and then you've got this beautiful olive oil, and we're able to put it in the cream, and it's just spectacular.
Yeah, I'm looking at it on the website right now, actually. Emu oil is in yours, and I have heard of the miraculous benefits of emu oil for pain. So that just is one of the ingredients. But then you have, it says transdermal magnesium chloride, meaning it can be absorbed through the skin. Do you
Right.
know, I mean, I know I'm asking you like the technical measurement question, but do you know like how much we absorb through, or how much magnesium's in it?
You know what? We have tried. I wish, Ashley, that I could answer that. We've tried to do testing on that, and it really determines on the lotion and the cream, it determines how sweaty you are, the pH of your skin. And so we have not been able to determine, okay, you're absorbing this much. We know that we get benefit from it because people will come back and say, oh my goodness, after that workout, if I make sure to put that muscle cream on, my recovery is happening faster. I'm not going into muscle cramps or spasms. So we know that it's being absorbed, but we haven't been able to determine what I would feel comfortable with. You're absorbing this much because it varied so much from person to person. The numbers were just all over the map, depending on the pH of their skin and all sorts of different variables. And so that's not one I'm comfortable calling because there's such a variation in that.
But the results are there.
Yes, the results are there. In fact, we were actually out of stock last week on the muscle cream. We have a hard time keeping it in stock, and it's people coming back to buy it again because the results you add, and I think you and I talked about this. I don't like products that are what I consider over mentholated, that
Mm-hmm.
they've just used way too much menthol in it. And so you add a small amount of menthol and you get that beautiful cocoa butter that we get from a cooperative in Uganda. So women are paid fairly and it educates little girls. And then you bring in the beautiful emu oil that we get from a family farm in Arizona, and then that permaculture olive oil. And it just is beautiful, high quality oils that make a difference on the muscle.
Would someone use this to for all of their supplementation? Like, could they get 100% of their magnesium needs from the cream, or is this something that they would do in addition to the foot soak when they're at the gym, or if they have chronic pain, or if they have, they want a recovery, or if they're just like tired feet at the end of the day, so they just apply it as needed to the muscles, or is it an actual supplement?
I am so glad you asked this. So, the muscle cream can never get you to cell saturation. That's not its purpose. The soak will get you to cell saturation. The muscle cream is a great way to load up on magnesium in between your soaking and use it for spot treatments.
Awesome. So tired feet, shoulders, muscle tension. If you have a headache, you can rub it like on your temples and your shoulders, that kind of thing.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, awesome. Very cool. Well, I can't wait to try it. I'm such a believer of your foot soak, and I just I definitely know that your cream will be a lot of fun, especially because you and I have talked over the phone and you shared with me some stories. Can you share some stories now of people who have had really great results with your cream and with the foot soak?
Oh, yes. My favorite one just happened not too long ago. The cutest little girl came into the shop. She had little pigtails. She was, 7 or 8. And her dad came over to me and said, Kristen, she would like to talk to you. And so I immediately got down and was interacting with her. And she wanted me to know that she had created an idea and she wanted to come to me to see if it would work. She was an entrepreneur at heart. And so I asked her, I said, what is your idea? And she said, well, I have a really hard teacher this year at school. And she was a very sensitive little girl, an HSP, highly sensitive person. And this teacher and her were learning how to work it out, but her stress levels were up at school. And she recognized that she felt better after she soaked because she was getting that magnesium in. And so she had asked her dad if she could just wear her rain boots to school. And she was just going to pour magnesium down in the bottom. And that way, problem solved.
Aww.
It was the sweetest. And she wrapped her arms around me and she said, thank you so much for teaching my dad about magnesium because I need it every day. She is a very sensitive little girl and was struggling in this new classroom situation with a person who was not picking up on the needs of a sensitive person. And so it had been a very stressful year for her, but she found her solution, magnesium rain boots.
Now, you also have a spray. Could she have taken the magnesium spray and sprayed herself in the bathroom, or taken the cream and put it on her? Like, would those be adequate spot treatments throughout the day?
Yes, yes, absolutely. The spray again cannot get you to cell saturation. We had a family that actually came into the retail shop and they said, "We just don't have time to soak." And I get it. People are busy. I'm busy. I have a business. I'm the mom of 6 adult children. I have 8 grandchildren. I have a full busy life. I get that there are lots of things that pull on our time. And so they came in and said, "Look, we're just too busy to soak, but we want to get to cell saturation. And you say that we can't using the spray." And I said, "You just can't. It's not going to get you there." And they said, "Well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to prove you wrong. And we're going to get our blood tested before, and then we're going to spray morning and night. And we're going to get our blood tested after 30 days. And we are going to get cell saturation. We just know we can do this." And so they did. They used the spray. They sprayed on soft tissue areas. Anytime that we want ultimate magnesium absorption, we want to do soft tissue areas. So bottom of feet, inside of thighs, inside of arms will actually absorb more than other areas of the body. They did it morning and night, and they did move their numbers, but it was minuscule compared to how much they moved their numbers when they did the 30-day challenge. And they were so funny, delightful family. And they were like, "Dang it, you're right." And I said, we've got to make time to soak. It's foundational. It's the foundational piece. It holds your minerals. If you don't have enough magnesium, you can't hold your other minerals. And so it's where we start. I love the very first movie I ever saw was Sound of Music with my sister. And do you remember that one part actually where they sing, they're on the hills and they're there with Julie Andrews and they sing "Let's Start at the Very Beginning." It's a very good place to start. We need to start with magnesium. And so they were able to move their numbers a little bit, but soaking is what ultimately moves those numbers and gets you to cell saturation. And that's where the real benefit of magnesium starts kicking into your body and starts pushing and starting those processes that, it used to be when the research first came out, I remember it being 300, and then they moved the number to 600. And now the latest research is showing 1,800 different processes that you need magnesium to start in your body. And you need your body at cell saturation to have enough magnesium to be in all of those different places, to start all of those different functions for your body.
What about overdose? Like, let's say I soaked every day. That's all I did, or I wore my magnesium rain boots, and that's all I did. Can I get to a place? So, let's say I've hit cell saturation, I've gone well into the wonderful range of cell saturation. can I overdose on this? Can my body absorb too much magnesium?
So we wondered that. We couldn't find any literature. We couldn't find anything online of someone having issues from taking too much magnesium through soaking, not through oral, but through soaking. And so what we did is we took clients that we knew were super dedicated and already had high magnesium RBC numbers. And so they had to have a magnesium RBC of at least 6.5. And so the ultimate goal for your magnesium RBC is 6.3 to 7. And so we wanted them to be at 6.5, and we had them do the 30-day challenge at 6.5. And they soaked every single day in magnesium, and then we tested them. And all of them moved their numbers up to 6.8, 6.9, and several of them reached 7, and some of them even went a little bit beyond. And then we had them evaluate, how do you feel? What's happening? And none of them had any detrimental responses to their magnesium numbers being moved and pushed to the outside limit.
Because I'm thinking, all the classes I took in college, come rushing back, thinking about biology and anatomy and chemistry and everything. And I think about osmosis. Our body is absorbing, the minerals are coming in, from this one liquid into another liquid, which is, coming from the water, going through the skin into the lymph system. And now, do you find that, do you know that, does it absorb to the lymph system first, or does it absorb to the directly into the blood? I'd be interested, if, or is it both? And I'm thinking our body is smart in that, it wouldn't, if there was more magnesium in our body than in the water, it wouldn't it just, that's not how it works. It doesn't continually absorb. There comes a point where it comes to a balance, right? The osmotic balance.
Right. So, what we found through the thermal imaging, when you asked, does the blood absorb it or does the lymph? What we found on thermal imaging is it started in the lymph. And when you put that thermal imaging on someone who is soaking, you can see it pulsing through the lymph.
Amazing. And so after you do your soak, you should do something should someone do something to stimulate their lymph, like they could do a rebounder, go for a walk, do dry brushing. Like they shouldn't just like stand up and then walk to the bed and lie down, because they haven't stimulated their lymph. Do you find that actually, if someone does something to stimulate their lymph movement, either, or deep breathing moves the lymph, um after they've soaked, do you see better results?
We saw better results when they stimulated their lymph before they soaked. So,
Oh.
magnesium is hydrophilic and it needs a hydrated body to move in. And so, drinking a glass of water before you soak and doing a couple jumping jacks, running in place for a little bit, actually help the magnesium move more quickly through the body. So, stimulating the lymph before, we saw a difference. Stimulating it after, on the thermal imaging, we didn't see anything. Nobody gave us feedback, but we got lots of feedback and saw the difference when you stimulate the lymph beforehand and get that moving. And then it's, you put that magnesium in, and the magnesium just goes with the flow and does its thing.
Very cool. Do you have any testimonials around autoimmune condition and how magnesium can support the body in healing and correcting itself?
Oh, yes, autoimmune. That is, I have struggled personally with autoimmune since I was a young girl. Magnesium is crucial to detoxify the body. In the simplest of terms, it opens up and widens the freeway for your body to detoxify. And we are exposed. I was reading an article this morning, and her numbers were 80,000 different chemicals a day that we're exposed to. And when you look, years ago, if you took that umbilical cord, there was 7 to 8 chemicals in it. And now when you take that umbilical cord and test it, there's hundreds and sometimes thousands of chemicals in that cord. We are just exposed to so much more than what our grandparents were, than what our great
Mm.
grandparents were. And we need a stronger detoxification system. We need that detoxification system in working congruently in our body. And that liver magnesium is crucial to keep those pathways open and functional.
So when I first soaked, so my thing is heavy metal toxicity. I've been trying for years to lose weight and I'd lose, 15 to 25 pounds and then I'd become so over toxic, I'd be bedridden sick and I'd have to stop the diet and everything would kind of come back to normal. And for years I blamed myself. I had that shame that we talked about. Oh,
Yeah.
everything, right? Until I discovered that I have high amounts of different heavy metals, one of them being copper, but I've high heavy metals. And hair, I dyed my hair for 15 years. You can get it from hair dye. I just found out the other day from a guest. I did the kind of unhealthy things teenagers do, and that would expose me to heavy metals, like tobacco and drinking and all that kind of stuff, and just living, breathing in air in a major city, living in Toronto, and we had copper piping in our house. It was a very old house. I think it was well over 100 years, and so we had copper piping. There could have been lead, all kinds of stuff, right? I think at one point I've had a cavity. I had a cavity when it was a tooth that came out, because it was before, it was the children's teeth, but I had, a mercury amalgam when I was a kid. And so it was just all the things you could possibly think about, the average human goes through that accumulates heavy metals. But something about my physiology was not detoxifying the heavy metals. And so they were just getting stored in my fat tissue. And so every time I went to lose weight, it was, oh, yes, I'm feeling great. I'm losing weight. This is great. And then my liver couldn't get rid of the heavy metals. My kidneys couldn't handle it. And my blood became over toxic. And I could taste heavy metals. I could smell it. My body was, emanating an odor of toxins, through every part of my body. Not to get graphic, but you would just I could smell burning rubber and garbage, basically. And I knew this was over toxicity. And so finally, coming to naturopaths, they said, okay, something's going on with your detoxification, whether it's a deficiency or your detoxification pathways, something's happening, MTHFR. We went so many different routes to look at what could possibly be at the root of my problem. And I took it upon myself to do things like eat chlorella, which is a great natural chelator. And I started to notice results there. I did about 6 or 8 months ago, I on the show talking about this parasite cleanse and did that and had some great results with that. And then I got a sunlight and sauna and at the end of February, and I've seen some great results of that. So I've just been doing everything I could possibly find. Then I found this amazing ionic foot bath that actually pulls heavy metals out of you. So you put the minerals, put the magnesium in through your feet and you can pull heavy metals out with this ionic foot bath. So I'm finding all these different things. And the doctors have kind of been clueless. They throw stuff at me like, here, take these herbs, but they don't really know. They just said, well, just lose weight slowly, right? And that didn't really sit well with me. So I had, within minutes of my feet being in your foot bath, the magnesium foot soak for the first time while I was sitting there in downtown Seattle, um, I could feel the toxins coming in and I started to taste the heavy metals in my mouth. And I thought, now some people would be scared at that point going, oh, I don't want to do this. It makes you taste things. And no, for me, that was exciting because it showed me that within minutes of me putting my feet in this foot bath, I knew my body was absorbing the magnesium and the magnesium started to help my body release toxins and release heavy metals. I thought this is amazing. I got so excited. I know you told me because I put up my hand and I told you what was happening, and you said, "Okay, you're probably going to want to take it slow and not do it every day." I did not listen to you. I was like, I am pushing myself through this. I got so excited. I did it every day. And because I was also doing other things. Like I said, I'm sweating all the time in my sauna. I'm taking the chlorella. I'm taking, other supplements. I'm doing so many things under the sun to support my body in removing heavy metals. And I got so excited soaking my feet because I could, feel that, and I could taste and I could see this something was happening. About 7 days, and I noticed that the symptoms started to diminish, but 7 days into soaking with the magnesium, I no longer taste the heavy metals. I no longer have this.
Yay!
So I thought, man,
Yay!
it's working. It's helping my body detoxify. But can you explain what is it about magnesium, and specifically getting enough? Like I'm, absorbing 4 grams of magnesium every time I soak with your stuff. What is it about magnesium that supports the body in eliminating heavy metals?
Okay, so think of it, for example, if you have 1,800 doors that you need to open for your liver to work, and you only have a certain amount of time that you can open those 1,800 doors, and there is just no humanly possible way to open those 1,800 doors in that amount of time. Magnesium helps to open all of those doors. Our bodies have those pathways in place, Ashley. It's when they get shut down because we don't have enough magnesium, the door can't be opened. And so 800 of the doors are left closed that day and can't do what the body needs us to do. And
Amazing.
so when you give the body the magnesium it needs, it starts to be able to open all of those doors and do what it's naturally intended to do.
Yeah, because I'm just imagining, what the liver needs to just the liver alone, because it goes through different phases of detoxification. I know that like
Yes.
selenium is one of the things that's needed to recycle the body's own glutathione. Glutathione's needed to handle, it's the master antioxidant. And, if we don't have enough selenium, it's like that's just one that's like liver food, right? And so the
Right.
liver needs, all these different minerals and vitamins. There's all kinds of B vitamins the liver needs to function. And if
A
it doesn't,
cofactor
yeah, all
of
the
magnesium.
cofactors. That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, let's talk about cofactors. So let's say all the listeners are so excited, they're all going to soak with your magnesium, but they want to make sure they're not just getting one nutrient because the body needs, Dr. Joel Wallach says the body needs 90 essential nutrients. There's other people that would say the body needs more. Some people say the body needs less, but we all know that the body needs, there's 16 vitamins out there. We can try to we can kind of accidentally get vitamins if we eat lots and lots of fresh, locally sourced fruits and vegetables. Some people, though, have problems with, digestion, absorption. So there's that. But, we can all, go out and adapt a really healthy diet. It's a little bit harder to get our minerals, though, because we've already talked about it's not readily available in our food anymore. So let's say we're all soaking our feet. How can we get all the cofactors? What other lifestyle shifts should we make to make sure that we're maximizing the magnesium so that the liver's getting everything else it needs in addition to the magnesium, the kidneys are getting everything, all the different organs in our body that come back into balance.
So I think it's crucial that we start with hydration, because so many times we want to jump to all these other things when in reality you're just not hydrated enough.
Right?
And magnesium works better, it's hydrophilic, and it needs hydration to move through the body. So starting with the best water you can get your hands on to help move that magnesium through. Magnesium also needs B vitamins. B vitamins are crucial. And I like to do a whole food B vitamin, and I also do bee pollen, nature's source of B vitamins. And it's crucial that those B vitamins are there to help that magnesium. They're like a family. I'm good on my own. I am better with my husband. He is my
Mm.
cofactor. We just work well together. And so that's how the B vitamin is to the magnesium. The magnesium can do its thing and it's good and it's strong. But man, when you add that cofactor in of the B vitamins, it can work even better. Another one with magnesium is boron. Getting that boron in. Boron holds magnesium in the cell. So for someone who soaks in magnesium, does their 30-day challenge, tests, and they're not holding it, it could be a boron deficiency. And so making sure that we're getting the boron. Taurine is another really important cofactor for magnesium, that amino acid of taurine, and working with it. But here's the really cool thing, Ashley, because we can start getting like, oh my gosh, I don't have this, and I don't have this, and I don't have this. And then our cortisol goes up, and we can buy into that perfectionism mode. I have been doing magnesium now for 16 years with people. And in 16 years, I have seen the most amazing transformations by people just taking one step of the master mineral of magnesium and starting with that one step. And then as you start feeling a little bit better, you can add the B vitamins in. And then as you feel a little bit better, you can make sure that you've got some boron and see where you're at with that. You can add some taurine. I'm a huge E3 Live blue-green algae girl. I love their brain on and the nutrients that it has, and you can add that in. But you don't go wrong with starting with soaking in magnesium. And we can add all of those cofactors in and help to supercharge it and get it really functioning. But even the simple step of just soaking in magnesium puts you on that pathway of building a strong foundation.
Wow. Thank you.
I want to talk about one thing though on your journey that kept coming up. Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Okay. So, do you know where your ferritin levels are at?
Oh, you mean
We've talked
my
about,
iron?
yeah,
I'm
just
really
your
good.
ferritin
I
number.
was actually high
Okay.
before the pregnancy. I don't know where I am now, but before the pregnancy I was high. I went into the pregnancy with really strong iron levels. I still took an iron supplement because there's two times in the pregnancy when you have low iron, and so even like every woman wants to go into a pregnancy with good
Right.
iron levels, because
Yeah.
the body's blood volume increases, and so that drops the concentration of iron, and then the baby robs the mother of iron, because for the first 6 months, because there's no iron in breast milk, so until the baby actually starts eating solid food, it's not going to get any iron, so its liver needs to store its own iron to last it at least 6 months. And so yeah, so I developed, I would say, like borderline low iron, but I feel as though it's fine now. I'm not eating red meat or meat anymore. I'm avoiding meat as much as possible, but I don't eat red meat anymore. So I'd be curious to know what it is now. Why? What's for those? Are you going to talk about something related to people with low iron?
Well, with heavy metals has been, I had an imbalance of heavy metals. And so when they put that titanium in me, that's what triggered everything. And so I'm
Mm.
fascinated with what can we do to create optimal healing to detox from heavy metals. And one of the things that I'm seeing a pattern in with my clients is if your ferritin is not in its proper ratio, which for women, I am seeing the numbers between 20 and 40. That's where I want to be with my ferritin levels. And if your ferritin is higher, it's blocking your body from releasing the heavy metals. And so I just thought, oh, that'd be so interesting to find out, where is Ashley's ferritin and is it optimal? Because look at all of the things that you're doing, Ashley, like you're a rock star, all of the things that you're doing. And so it makes me go, ooh, is her ferritin optimal for her to release all of those heavy metals?
So, are you saying that when we have low iron levels that we have problems releasing heavy metals?
Yes, I see that consistently across the board, especially if the ferritin is low or high. And so if it's high, in fact, I've got it right here in front of me. I just did a class on the Bob's Red Mill stabilized rice bran to help chelate the ferritin down. And her ferritin was at about 240, which is high.
Oh my gosh.
And once she brought it down, at about 40 because she was like you, had done so many things and just couldn't get rid of the heavy metals, couldn't get her weight balanced. And once she brought her ferritin down, her body naturally kicked into letting go of those heavy metals. And it was
Mm.
just an incredible thing to watch as her body just balanced itself with the heavy metals. But her last factor was bringing that ferritin into balance.
How did you learn all of this? Is it just through studying and studying and studying and researching and talking to all kinds of holistic health experts? Are you just like a self-taught?
So I tell people, everybody has, like, I remember in high school, my girlfriend, her dad had a car dealership. So she always had brand new cars. And I remember being like, I hate to even use this word. I remember being really jealous of her in high school. Like, I want to drive a brand new car because she had a different car all the time. And in life, we're just given this boxes of what our experiences are. And for example, my marriage just rocks. And so other people could look at me and go, oh my gosh, I want a marriage like hers. In that same box has been some horrific out of the box health issues for myself, my husband, and it's just the process of putting it together and figuring it out and then sharing it with other people. And then I've been in this beautiful position that other people have shared their journey with me. And so when you see the same thing happening with 1,000 people, it's like, oh my gosh, are you doing this? Are you doing this? Because it just happens over and over. And my husband has a philosophy: if there's an expensive class, my wife will take it. I love the process of learning and have been really fortunate that we've been able to invest a lot in my education and to take those classes and those certifications with people who kind of think outside of the box like I do. And so just a matter of putting those together and wanting, ultimately, is what drives me, as I want it for my family. I want, and I'm concerned my grandchildren, what will their currency be? Our currency, we need to really focus on ferritin and magnesium. And what will their currency be? What will be the thing that generation, because they're killing themselves with some of the energy drinks and they're robbing nutrients in a way that they don't even understand yet. And so it's just my desire to put those puzzle pieces together for my family, and then the ability that other people have asked me to be a part of their journey that's increased my learning curve. And I love being a part of someone's journey when they put that piece together and they recognize I can go past surviving and I can step into creating. And then they start creating things. And then you see this entrepreneurial side come in because they have the energy to follow through on the dreams and ideas that they have. It's like rocket fuel to me. I love it.
Awesome. I do have a question about your quality. Do you so you get I'm just imagining, you can just tell us the process. So they take the magnesium out of this really obscure sea,
Hmm.
um, and the Zextine
Zextine. Hmm.
Zextine sea, and then maybe you can tell us a bit about how do they get it to you? How do you know that it is pure and not full of heavy metals and pollution? Do you have it tested? Is every batch tested? Can you just talk a little bit about that?
Oh, absolutely. So, one of the things that's happening now is they can actually produce synthetic magnesium chloride, the liquid, in a lab. It doesn't get you to cell saturation because it doesn't have the cofactors. So, it's so important that the magnesium that you're soaking in comes from sea brine. And so, in the Netherlands, at Zextine, they pull it up from the sea brine and they filter it so that it's clean. And then it goes in a great big QB container and they ship it to us, and it comes through New York, and then it goes to Chicago through those ports. And then when it lands in Utah, and the reason that I do this is purely because of the journey that I was on, that I got burned so many times by having sensitivities to things that people said were clean, but they weren't clean. So every single batch is tested at an independent lab before it goes in a bottle and gets Living the Good Life Naturally's label on it. Because when that is bottled and when it has Living the Good Life Naturally, it's a contract. And I realize not everybody recognizes that it's a contract, but for me, it's a contract. That when it has that label on it, that I am promising people this is the cleanest, purest magnesium, again, that's going into this bottle, and it will never be diluted. And so then it lands in we're so excited. We just moved to a new warehouse and it has loading docks and forklifts and all this cool stuff that I never thought I wanted, but I do. And so my daughter, my oldest daughter, who's 27, actually manages her team over at the warehouse. And so she's the one that's figured out how to unload it. And they made this whole, is it called a scaffolding system that they can fill it very quickly and efficiently. And so it comes from Chicago to us on a truck, and then we offload it at that new warehouse with the forklift, and she got certified as a forklift driver so that she can do that, and then she oversees all of our team loading it up.
And you ship out from there?
Yes, and we ship directly from there. We did have it on Amazon, but the warehouses at Amazon are so overheated and not conditioned, and the product it's not loved on like what we like. And so we pulled it from Amazon and we ship it directly from our warehouse in Logan, Utah. So my daughter, not me, I would so mess up their systems. I'm clueless what they do over there, but so my daughter and her team, everything shipped out of that Logan, Utah warehouse. And we ship by priority mail. We tried all the different carriers, and at this point, USPS is still the best to get it to you for the best price, for the weight of the product, and to get it to you in the most efficient manner time-wise. And so we do everything by USPS.
I'm really glad you brought up the Amazon. I have to admit, I have bought supplements on Amazon before.
Yeah. I have.
And I've even bought, like at one point, pouches, like how, toddlers, we got our son, weaned off of the breast and the bottle, and then we got him onto I'd make my own pouches, right? But there just comes to a point where I needed to supplement with some organic pouches, and I was
Right.
about to order, these big boxes of all these different, mashed vegetables in a pouch. And I'd read the reviews and people would say, do not buy this on Amazon. There's mold in this. There's, they cut open the box, they cut open the pouch and they'd see it. And they said, you just do not trust. And that got me thinking, like, I don't know how long people complained they were shipped expired, pouches and
Oh,
things like that. And I've heard stories, because I've been working for the last 7 years with a supplement company. I've heard stories of knockoffs on Amazon, and anyone could make a ball that looks like yours and put whatever they want in it and sell it on Amazon, saying that it's magnesium foot soak. So there's a lot of not good stuff going on there. And then you bring up the most important thing, which is if you're buying a supplement, you want it to be at room temperature, and in the Amazon facilities, it can
they're
be
brutal.
really hot. And so it's, breaking down the strength or the quality of that. So your magnesium soaks in a plastic bottle. What kind of measures did you take to make sure that the plastic doesn't harm the people?
We did lots of testing on this because we know, for example, if you are drinking a water bottle that has sat out in the sun, it actually can affect your estrogen levels
Mm-hmm.
because the water will leach that plastic. And so it was really important to us and we tried to do it in glass, and we just couldn't make it work. And so that's when we really researched, okay, what kind of plastic can we ship it in and the heat that it sits in. And that's when we realized that Amazon, now please know, I've purchased things on Amazon. It is not a good fit for my company because we had people sending us pictures of the plastic and the container shape had changed because of the extreme heat that it sat in, even though we had it set up and marked. Don't let this, they have it where you can mark it and it will go to a better quality warehouse and it won't go over a certain temperature, but it didn't happen. And so it's just important to us that the temperature be maintained and that it stay in an appropriate temperature and the best plastic available so that when it goes to people, it's still the cleanest source of magnesium.
And so the plastic you chose, you've tested it, it doesn't leach into the magnesium?
Yes. Yes.
Great. Really, really cool. And so do people need to, once they open the magnesium, do they need to put it in the fridge? Some supplements, especially liquid minerals, need to, like, they need to be refrigerated, or is there any way that it could collect mold? If someone opened it and didn't use it for 6 months, I mean, that's sitting on the counter, is that safe?
Absolutely. So we've done a lot of testing over the 16 years with the magnesium. And the really awesome thing about magnesium is that it is shelf stable. So you don't have to put it in the fridge and you can stock up on it. So you can buy a couple jugs and put it in. Now, again, you don't want it in extreme climates. Like, for example, we had a lady that called from Arizona and she said, I have a storage shed. I just want to buy a whole bunch of it and share it with my kids, but I'll have to store it in the storage shed. And I said, I've lived in Arizona. I said, is your storage shed air conditioned? And she said, no. I said, personally, then I would not leave it there because we know the plastic is going to degrade and that's not going to be a good thing. But it is shelf stable and it can take the cold. So if it gets really cold, it will get little granules in it. All you have to do is shake that up to redisperse. The friction of the movement will redisperse the granules, and so you can still use it. So if it's not going to be, we don't want it in extreme heat temperatures. But other than that, it's super shelf stable, doesn't have to go in a fridge, and can sit there. We've had it tested at 5 years and at 7 years, and it was still the same quality of product. And so it can sit there as long as it's not in that extreme heat.
You talked about that we don't want to take synthetic magnesium because it's synthetic and there's missing these cofactors. And then if we soak up your magnesium from a C,
Mhm.
then we're getting cofactors. What can you explain what cofactors are in your magnesium soak? So I'm just imagining, I mean, there's magnesium and there's some water. What else is in there?
So the cofactors will vary because there are different pockets that they pull it from. And so that's why on our label, we don't print it, because even though technically the FDA would allow me to print that, because I think is it every 15 or 18 years that you have to retest your product and put the label on, but I think that's garbage. And so I want my labels to be more current than that, but financially to change the labels out every time we can't do. And so there will just be trace minerals in there, and they vary every single time, but those trace minerals support the uptake of magnesium. And yeah, you can go buy magnesium that's made in a lab for a lot cheaper, but it's not going to move your magnesium number, that RBC, the red blood cell count, and that's my end goal, is moving that magnesium RBC numbers, because that's where I see people creating optimal health. It's the foundation, the stepping point off to do that.
I'm glad you brought that up. I had a listener that says, "Oh, my boyfriend," I think she said, "My boyfriend is taking, or my husband's taking Calm,
Oh, Oh,
Yeah,
Ashley, are we gonna go here?
yeah, I want to talk about it
Oh.
because we go to the drugstore and they're like, "Oh, I heard on Ashley's wonderful podcast that I need to take magnesium, and so I'm just gonna go buy this like powder at the drugstore called Calm." Can you please explain why? I mean, I really don't want like a lawsuit coming from this company that makes Calm,
Right,
but can
right.
you so
Yeah,
so
we
pr-
have to be
so
careful.
companies like Calm that have the same ingredients as Calm does, what is in it that was harmful? You were telling me when I first met you, you actually shared, I think, as someone was taking it and you shared some valuable information about how in that supplement is something that damages the gut.
Well, so again, it comes back to currency. We have to be current. And it used to be that citric acid was made from the rinds of lemons. That's what it was made from. And now it's made from black mold. And so citric acid actually punches holes and creates a leaky gut environment. And it's not a product. Citric acid is not something that I would ingest and put in my body because currently it's not being made like it used to be.
Got it.
Is that
So
going to keep your podcast safe without?
so we
I
need
could
to
go
be
off on this one.
well,
It
and
is.
yeah, I've
Yeah.
heard citric acid coming from GMO corn, and so yeah, we watch out where when we buy so that's why I like buying I buy Whole Foods vitamins. When I get a vitamin, not from Whole Foods, I
Yeah.
buy when I take a liquid vitamin that is derived from Whole Foods,
Whole food.
not from some
Yeah.
lab that derives it
Yeah.
from black mold. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it can all the supplements can say um can say it's vitamin C, for example, but it's not all vitamin C's created equal, is what you're saying. And some of the
Right.
synthetic can be damaging to the gut.
And that citric acid, the way it's produced now, is very damaging to the gut. And I can't tell you how many people, when you explain that process to them and they pull back on their powdered drink that has citric acid, the increase of health that happens. We have to be current, and the process used to make citric acid now is just not one that I personally would put in my body.
Mm. I definitely want to have you back on the show. I'd love for you
Oh,
to be
I'd
a
love to come
regular.
back on. We need to talk boron. Could we talk boron the next
Yes,
time? Okay,
please.
we'll
I
talk
know
boron.
you went into boron a bit when I was at your health talk. And I love how if anyone has a chance, go to Kristen's, like go see her live. She tours around the states. And do you ever go any other countries or do you stick to the states?
So far, we've just stuck to the States. I would love to go to another country. That was our first. I've been doing the magnesium classes there in Utah. And we just realized so many people were saying, Kristen, I'm not in Utah. I want to come to a magnesium class. And so I thought, you know what? We're going to take these on the road. And so we did Boise, Seattle, Las Vegas, St. George, somewhere else. Anyway, we did 6 places and it was an incredible learning curve. Seattle being our biggest. Seattle being our biggest learning curve. Oh my gosh. Anyway, so we are setting up right now to do 6 more places, like 6 other places. Like I know we want to go to Arizona, to the Mesa area. We have a lot of people that are ordering magnesium from there, and we're setting up 6 more places that we're going to hit. I would love to go internationally. We've had a lot of people from London, a huge pocket in London that are super interested in magnesium and wanting to learn about it. I've never taught internationally before, but oh my gosh, that's something I'm totally open to.
So when I saw you live, a lot of your talk was interacting with the audience, and because you can go off on so many tangents, and so that's why we went off on the boron tangent. I think someone brought up a question that had you go on that, and so I love that you really feed off of the crowd because if it's a bunch of 80-year-olds, they're going to have different questions than a bunch of 20-year-olds and different concerns. And so every talk that you give is different, which I thought was really
And
cool.
I got in trouble for that. I had a lady that came and she had brought her family, like 15 of her extended family with her. And she said, "You're going to learn this. Come to this class." And I am literally not capable of teaching the same class twice. First of all, it would bore me to tears. And second of all, I love being with people and I want to make sure, because when you say yes to my class, you've said no to something else. And so I have a responsibility that I need to make that worth your time investment, that you've come to this quote free class. And she was really frustrated with me, Ashley, because she was like, "I thought you were going to talk about this and this, and you talked about this and this." And I said, not capable. And so I really do like to really fine tune it to the people that are there. Like our Las Vegas class, we went so deep because they were all health coaches themselves. And so
Nice.
I was like, "Oh my gosh." And we went like 2.5 hours over, and none of us even wanted to leave. We all just loved being with each other. And so I really do like to meet the needs of the people that are there with the questions that they have. So if you're listening and you've been to a class, please do not expect the same class from me. I am incapable of doing that. I'm not wired that way.
Well, it's great. That means that we could go to you every time you come around to our area. We'll just keep going. It'll be a different class. It's a fun experience. So for those who are like, "Hey, I would love to attend one of Kristen's live classes," where should they go to get on your, I don't know, email list or your
Oh,
notifications so that
yeah.
they can make sure that they are notified when you're in their area? Also, you do a lot of Facebook Lives. You do a lot of teaching on Facebook. How would they make sure that they're connected to you so that they can see your Facebook Lives? Because I love your classes that you do on Facebook.
Okay, so if they would like to be notified about the next series of Magnesium on the Road classes coming up that we'll be announcing, there's two ways that they could do that. They could go to the website, which is livingthegoodlifenaturally.com, and join the email newsletter. But when they do that, they are going to get a weekly. And for some people, you may not want that. And so if you're okay with that weekly and a little bit of a deeper dive and information and some education coming out, we call it weekly-ish. It almost always comes out every Monday. Every once in a while it doesn't. Then the email newsletter is a great way to get that. Or you can go to Facebook, Living the Good Life Naturally, and we always announce it on Facebook and Instagram when the new classes are announced.
Very cool. Excellent. And so would that be Instagram? Is that like just at Living the Good Life Naturally?
Oh, so what we've done is we just did a little split with our Instagram. So we have the bath and body products, and then I like to get into boron and parasite cleanses and hormone balance. And we found that we had a lot of people wanting to buy the cleaner bath and body products, but didn't really want to hear about parasite cleanses. And so Living the Good Life Naturally is the bath and body products. And then my name, Kristen M. Bowen, that's where it's my voice and I'm talking about the things that I'm learning and passionate about.
Okay, so I'm gonna make sure that those links to your different social media are in the show notes of today's podcast at
Okay,
learntrail.com so that we can, so I'm sure people are like driving or working out at the gym or something, and or doing the laundry, and they're like, what,
right.
where's the link to
And
all this?
on the website it has all the social media profiles, and if you'll link to that,
Okay,
that'd be
great.
great.
Perfect. Okay, excellent. Now you are giving away a foot
Yes,
soak,
I'm a
and
gift giver. I
I
love to
love
give
it.
gifts. My dream is just to give lots of gifts. Lots of gifts.
Thank you so much. Two very lucky listeners are going to get a foot soak and a magnesium cream. I'm really excited. All the listeners can go to the Facebook group And from there, I'll be announcing the contest, and we'll roll some dice for two people to win. And for those who've listened to and said, I want to do the 30-day challenge, I want to get a bottle of this and get my family involved, we're all going to soak our feet and we're going to try it for 30 days and see how we feel, or they want to get the cream or both. They can go to livingthegoodlifenaturally.com, use a coupon code LTH to get a great discount. You also discount the shipping, so you're making it as affordable as possible. I really, really appreciate that, helping the Learn True Health listeners to gain their health back. And I'm so appreciative you came here today, that you gave us a discount on your wonderful foot soak that I really believe in. That we had this great conversation. Can't wait to have you back to talk about boron and a bunch of other things. I have a feeling you're going to be a regular, because we could go down so many wonderful rabbit holes together. Is there anything that you'd like to say to wrap up today's interview? Anything that you feel left unsaid that the listener should know about?
Thank you. Thank you for shining your light and educating people. I love what you're doing, and I love the fact that you're a voice that comes very clearly and strongly and passionately about making a difference in people's lives, because there's lots of people out there that need help, and lots of people that are tired of chasing symptoms and trying this and trying that. And I love what you're doing. So my gratitude to you for being the voice that you are, and driving through Seattle traffic to making it to my magnesium class, because I truly loved connecting with you.
It's been a lot of fun. Now the instructions for how to soak are really important, because you had there was a whole section of your lecture on how to soak. But I've purchased from your website, because I used up all the bottles that we bought when we saw you for the first time, and I went to your website. I used the coupon code you gave us, and the LTH coupon code, and bought a whole box of these bottles for my friends and family. I loved how quickly they arrived, and there was a handwritten note. I mean, I didn't know that your daughter, whoever is doing the shipping, probably didn't know who I was, but I'm sure that, I mean, I thought it was really cool. They're like, "Thank you, Ashley." And it just felt really personal. And there was a pamphlet with instructions. Is that all they need to know? Everything that comes with the foot soak explains how to do it? Or is there anything in addition that you want people to know about how to soak?
I just want them, and it's in the directions, but a lot of people miss it. Please don't soak in plastic. The plastic cuts the uptake. So soak in glass or stainless steel. And it's in those directions, but every once in a while, and we get it, everybody's busy and they'll miss that directive. It's so important. When you soak in plastic on thermal imaging, we found that the magnesium didn't move through your lymph. And if we took the same person, the same magnesium water, and put it in glass, it pumped up through your lymph. And then we took the same person, the same water, put it back in plastic, it didn't move. And so it's really important, the container that you soak in, that it's glass or stainless steel.
Very interesting. And you know what? Also, you can do the bath, right? You said that
Yes, yes.
baths did it as well. I went out and bought what I thought was a safe metal.
Mhm.
Um, and we were soaking in it, and then it started to flake, and I realized what we had bought was aluminum. Aluminum, because there are these cool big pans that I bought that
Yeah.
I thought was safe. So we were soaking in aluminum, and I'm like, darn it, I hope I wasn't absorbing aluminum. But now it just goes to show we got to be really careful. So we get big glass bowls or get stainless steel bowls to soak your feet in, or do it
Yeah.
in the bath.
Yes. And a lot of people will say, but the bath has plastic. There's something about the moldable plastic of the bowl. When we did our testing in the bathtub with the thermal imaging, it still moved through the lymph. So it's that moldable plastic of the bowl that stops that uptake.
Interesting. Yeah, it is interesting. Like, maybe it's because of conductivity.
Ah,
My husband said no, because glass doesn't conduct. But I mean, maybe something to do with grounding and conductivity. Who knows? But there's usually something metallic in a bath to ground it. So, but plastic makes it so something's not grounded, right?
Something.
So yeah, interesting.
I have picked the brain of every scientist and person that is really smart on that kind of stuff. And as of yet, I haven't learned the why. I just know it's 100% consistent. And so what we soak in our bowls is really important. And it is still being absorbed in the bathtub, even if it's a newer bathtub that's been sprayed with plastic.
Cool. Well, that's perfect because I would hate for someone to buy this and soak with a plastic foot spa or something and it
Yeah,
not
and a
work.
lot of people, that's what they think, "Oh, I'll use my little foot spa," and it's plastic, and they're just not uptaking it, and
Right.
so that's the one thing I just really want to come shining through that people understand.
Yeah. Excellent. Kristen, it has been wonderful having you on the show. We're definitely going to have you back. We're going to talk about boron. I want to talk about all kinds of fun stuff, parasites and mold and, autoimmune and adrenals and hormones, because you get really great results balancing hormones. So you and I, we can have a whole series of fun interviews chatting about wonderful things to support all the listeners to gain balance. And I was about to say the women, but you know what? We actually have a lot of male listeners. So shout
Do
out to all
you?
the
Awesome.
men that listen. I am so excited because when men
Oh,
take responsibility for their health, it really brightens my world.
Ashley, one that we could do maybe that would be more geared toward your male listeners would be the role of magnesium and testosterone.
I'd love to. I'd
Yeah,
love to
that's
talk about
a
that.
crucial connection.
All men
Yeah.
want
Oh,
healthy testosterone.
yeah, yeah. Oh, Ashley, it was so good being with you. Thank you for inviting me to come onto your show. I was a little nervous. I was a little bit nervous, and I have loved being with you. Thank you for helping me feel so comfortable.
Absolutely. And you know what? I was actually a little bit nervous too because I've been like working this up and excited about it for so many months that I got a little bit panicky today thinking about I have a new recording system. I spent all morning with a sound engineer, his
Oh,
second
that's
visit
so
to my
cool.
studio. I got the Yamaha soundboard working. So I'm like, fingers crossed, everything, worked today and the sound is going to sound great. So
Awesome.
yeah, really excellent. Thank you. And listeners, you can come into the Facebook group and chat with Kristen because she's in the Facebook group too. So we can have whole more magnesium discussions in there.
Oh, I love
Yeah.
it.
So this isn't goodbye. This is I'll see you in the Facebook group.
Awesome. Thanks, Ashley.
Hello, true health seeker. Have you ever thought about becoming a health coach? Do you love learning about nutrition and how we can shift our lifestyle and our diet so that we can gain optimal health and happiness and longevity? Do you love helping your friends and family to solve their health problems and to figure out what they can do to eat healthier? Are you interested in becoming someone who can grow their own business, support people in their success? Do you love helping people? You might be the perfect candidate to become a health coach. I highly recommend checking out the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. I just spent the last year in their health coaching certification program, and it really blew me away. It was so amazing. I learned over 100 dietary theories. I learned all about nutrition, but from a standpoint of how we can help people to shift their life and shift their lifestyle to gain true holistic health. I definitely recommend you check them out. You can Google Institute for Integrative Nutrition or IIN and give them a call, or you can go to learntruehealth.com/coach and you can receive a free module of their training to check it out and see if it's something that you'd be interested in. Be sure to mention my name, Ashley James, and the Learn True Health podcast, because I made a deal with them that they will give you the best price possible. I highly recommend checking it out. It really changed my life to be in their program, and I'm such a big advocate that I wanted to spread this information. We need more health coaches. In fact, health coaching is the largest growing career right now in the health field. So many health coaches are getting in and helping people, because you can work in chiropractic offices, doctors' offices, you can work in hospitals, you can work online through Skype and help people around the world. You can become an author. You can go into the school system and help your local schools shift their programs to help children be healthier. You can go into senior centers and help them to shift their diet and lifestyle to best support them in their success and their health goals. There's so many different available options for you when you become a certified health coach. So check out IIN, check out the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, mention my name, get the best deal. Give them a call and they'll give you lots of free information and help you to see if this is the right move for you. Classes are starting soon. The next round of classes are starting at the end of the month. So you're going to want to call them now and check it out. And if you know anyone in your life who would be an amazing coach, please tell them about it. Being a health coach is so rewarding and you get to help so many people.